A generic PC case that's stolen the iMac signature look? How could I possibly resist that? Also, a beige box with purple accents? Yeah, there's no way I'm not looking in there. These cases are from a time period where the PC world was getting a little bit funky. So this could be a weird one. Let's tear into these and find out. This thing is just giving me some kind of weird Twilight Zone vibes. It looks like the result of some failed genetic splicing experiment between an iMac and a PC. Maybe it is. Who knows? This case is commonly referred to as an Antec Gemstone. At least that's the name that yields actual relevant search results on Google. But it's not actually made by Antec. It was in some cases sold by them, though. As if the turn-of-the-century PC market couldn't get any more weird. Thanks to Wyatt for providing that info. And we have two identical Yamaha CD burners for some reason. And there you can see this thing's beige soul peeking through. Got a regular old floppy drive back there. And our power and reset buttons. And this case actually still has its protective plastic film on it. But that's gonna have to wait till later. We can't give that peely goodness away right off the bat. And the middle has these decorative bumps for some reason. Visual interest, I guess. And here's the side of the case. And both sides have these swooshy speed holes here for ventilation. And it's too bad we have that metal shielding, because I think it would look kind of cool if we could see inside the machine, because that plastic is quite translucent. And weirdly enough, it looks a lot more blue in the camera than it does in real life. To my eyes, it looks quite teal. And the top of the case has a built-in handle. I've been kind of scared to use it. It doesn't feel, like, very substantial. And the system is actually pretty heavy. Feels like it weighs about 30 pounds. But you know what? I'm gonna go for it. If it breaks, at least it'll break on camera. It's actually not too bad. I thought I'd start to feel it give, but it actually does feel pretty substantial. I guess more thought went into this thing than I give it credit for. And here's the back of the machine. And here the plainness is starting to show through even more. So we have PS2 and USB. So I'm thinking maybe a Pentium 3 board. Got two real serial ports, and a parallel port of course. So you have some kind of video card down there. Looks possibly very generic. Oh, that sound card looks semi-interesting. And we got a network card down there. Interesting that we have no dial-up modem. So they must have fully committed to the broadband era. Alright, let's get this thing open. Now, I only see these two plastic tabs, and no screws. See how this goes. Okay, that's actually pretty easy. And nothing broke. Gotta love that. And hey, we got a hard drive. Looks kinda quantum fireball-ish. And either I'm seeing double, or that's a dual CPU board. Let's get this fan duct thing out of here and take a look. Okay, how is this supposed to come off? I detached its clips, but it's still hanging on. This thing is not well molded. Wow, it's nothing short of a miracle that nothing broke. Now let's clear these cables out. And that is a dual CPU, Gigabyte 6VF DC7, which apparently also has dual BIOS. That's almost making me think workstation use, though this is quite a laid-back, fun-loving case to be a workstation. Look at the way this capacitor has almost no clearance to the heatsink. They're not actually in contact with each other, but it looks like there's only a few thousandths of an inch of clearance between them. So I guess you can forget about using anything other than the Intel spec cooler. Okay, let's check out that video card. And this is quite an old card to be in here. A Trident card from 1995. Very interesting choice. I guess whatever work they were doing with this didn't involve video. Now let's see the sound card. And it's a Yamaha XG, YMF744B-V to be exact. I believe these have pretty good DOS compatibility, especially for being PCI cards. And this being from Yamaha, they have actual OPL3, so that FM synth will be on point. I'm not sure, but I seem to remember the Yamaha XG being a big deal. And finally, our ISA network card. And it's a 3-COM Etherlink 3. This is probably the most common ISA NIC that I find in systems. Guess they were pretty popular. Now let's see those CPUs. Wow, somebody really overdid it with the thermal paste. Yeah, this might be one of the worst examples of thermal paste abuse I've uncovered yet. It just coated the entire bottom of the heatsink with it. Well, that's gonna be fun to clean up. Okay, I gotta get that RAM stick out of there, because there's no room to lever on that heatsink clip. Yeah, that's better. And we got a thermal paste massacre under here too. Actually, this one's worse. Let's see if that's contaminated the pins. Weird that it popped up like that. There must be a thermistor under there. Yep, sure is. Providing just a little bit of spring action. And we got some pin contamination. So this is going to have to be thoroughly cleaned. And I'm sure the other one's the same. Yep, though not as bad. And here's that RAM stick I pulled out. 256 megs of PC-133 from Centon Electronics. Never heard of them. A little dusty. Let's see the next one. And that's an identical stick, so we're up to 512 megabytes. Half a gig. We're getting fancy. And the last one looks the same also. And indeed it is. 768 megs. I feel like it must have had a gig at some point, and they just harvested the fourth stick for something else. And it looks like this drive cage comes out pretty easily, so let's get rid of that. What on earth is going on here? Looks like they shimmied the hard drive in place, because apparently this thing takes rails. Or at least a rail on one side. The other side is just screwed on like normal. That is very odd for such a custom case. But you just had to do what you had to do in the era before 3D printers. Now, let's go ahead and pull this motherboard, because I need to look at those caps very closely, as this board is right in that era. The capacitor plague, that is. Okay, that's weird. There's no clearance to pull the ports out of the shield. It's pinned between that and the drive cage here. Luckily, that shield looks removable. Let's see if that helps any. That's a little bit easier. Okay, first let's get the remnants of this thermal paste massacre out of these CPU sockets. Now let's do dust removal. Okay, now this is pretty remarkable. There is not a single leaky or even bulgy cap. Literally not a single one. And what's even crazier is these are definitely some of the more notorious caps. Choyo is one of the brands I remember being particularly bad. Now, it still doesn't mean these are any good, but it is surprising that none of them have any visual signs of failure. Now let's do something about the 5 gallons of thermal paste on these CPUs. Yeah, I had to put on gloves for this. Wow, that is ridiculous. Saturating the paper towel. Yeah, we all know how important it is to keep this printed circuit board cool. I think that's probably the end of this chip phone, too. This is definitely one of those examples of knowing just enough to screw it up. And it's like baked onto this die. That is not coming off easily. At last, I think I've done it. And it is, of course, a Pentium 3, 933 MHz, 256K of cache, and 133 MHz frontside bus, SL4ME. And I can't even tell if the other one's identical yet. It is still covered in garbage. And indeed it is, exact same chip. Okay, I got that chip sorted out. Now those heat sinks are going to be fun. That's pass 1 of probably 20. And to make matters worse, it's actually baked on. That's going to take some scraping. Just add the IPA directly on there and put that guitar pick to work. And for whatever's left, a little piece of magic eraser or melamine sponge works wonders. That's as clean as that's getting. And the other one was no more forgiving. I'm glad that's behind us. And on top of that, we got dust. It's interesting that this one has so much less dust in it. Okay, well, definitely not the worst. Now let's see what those fans sound like. They sound great. And you know they have a certain harmony to them. Okay, let's get these chips back in here. That little thermistor flex is kind of awkward. You have to keep downward pressure on the chip. And it forced me to leave fingerprints behind. I don't like that. Now let's get them set up with a sane amount of thermal paste. Ew, that cable routing seems kind of awkward. That'll do. And I'm never one to waste 40 cents on a battery if I don't have to. And I have to. The CR 2032 industry wins again. Okay, now let's go ahead and pull the twins. These screws are funny. 3 of them are smaller than their channels. That's not providing much clamp force. And it looks like this one has a superfluous washer. I think it's actually the same size as the screw head. Yeah, that's not doing much good. And this one has a washer too, which actually appears smaller than the screw head. There was an attempt. Now that I'm done screwing around, and here they are, both the exact same model, as expected, though one is slightly older, the one that was the lower drive. And luckily they're both pretty clean. Hopefully they're clean on the inside. And the hard drive is not made by Quantum. It's actually a Maxtor. Well, that may not be a good thing. I'm not sure which one's worse. That does look awfully Quantum Fireball-y though. But it is 80 gigabytes, D540X-4K. I'm sure one of those strings is a date code. And it is not particularly clean, though it could be worse. Well, you know Quantum must have had a hand somewhere in there, because there's one of their chips. Actually, 2 of their chips. Was Maxtor rebranding Quantums? Now I'm even more suspicious. And that floppy drive is made by Alps. Those seem to be pretty reliable in my experience. It's not the cleanest thing in the world, so let's get it apart and give it some service. And these are kind of tricky to get apart, in addition to removing this screw back here. You also have to remove the faceplate. Now let's spin it around, and you have to release this metal tab here while sliding back. They're definitely one of the more tricky drives to get into, and we are plenty dusty in here. I'm gonna try to get up in here as best I can, just to pick up all the loose dust and whatever else. Now let's go over those heads. Well, luckily those are clean. Now let's give it a little grease refresh. And gotta be careful around that sensor. This one is kind of tricky. Just gonna have to put it in the middle and let nature take its course. Moving on to the power supply. It's one of the rare occasions we actually get a name brand power supply made by Antec. It definitely has the gravity to suggest that it's a decent one, though 250 watts might be a stretch. And that's no ordinary dumb fan either. It is edumacated. That just means it varies the RPM based on either the load or the temperature, or both. Aha, yeah, temperature controlled. Well, that's fancy. And that awkward warranty sticker seems to suggest this is from November 1999. This thing is quite an eclectic mix of old and new parts. I sure hope that hard drive works. I'm dying to know what they were doing with this thing. Well, let's at least see if the power supply works. Well, let's see how smart that fan really is. Sounds pretty smart. Yeah, I guess they're not lying. I can barely hear the fan. Especially not over the sound of those clunky sacrificial hard drives. Can't believe they're still kicking. Alright, there's our 5-minute mark. I guess this thing didn't get particularly warm because the fan still sounds the same. Good enough for me. And you know, now that I look closer at this handle, I don't think I'll be trusting the system or my toes to it. I thought there was some kind of metal involved, but all of that weight gets supported by the plastic. Those washers go clean through the body metal, and it's only this upper plate supporting all the weight. But actually, I could fix that with some bigger washers. Do I have bigger washers? Well, it turns out I don't. And I could run to the hardware store, but that would require me leaving the house. So that's a nah. But anyway, at least I know it can be done. And there's not much dust in this case. I think a microfiber cloth can handle it. I guess all the dust got sucked out of this case fan contraption. Let's see what it takes to get in here. Got some screws. There we go. What an odd little contraption. I wonder if this toilet bowl thing reduces noise somehow. Yeah, still not the worst. Let's see what kind of acoustics this thing has. I guess it's not too noisy. There's just an ever so slight rattle out of that bearing. But it's definitely something I can live with. And this thing's configured as an intake fan for dropping some cool air on those CPUs. I would have liked it to be an exhaust fan, but I guess that's fair. Okay, we are back together. Let's see what we can make this thing do. Sending power. No explosions. Hard drive sounds okay. And it is posting. What? What on earth is going on? I didn't just imagine that, right? That was some serious character corruption. It is booting, though. Well, trying to. Very slowly. It's usually a sign of a not healthy hard drive. Come on, I really want this one to work. Oh, it's Windows 2000 Server. Ah, as is typical, we get a stop error. Inaccessible boot device. I guess that probably is a Mac store after all, because it's no good. Man, I really wanted to see what they had on this thing. Okay, I gotta reboot this thing. I need to see that post-corruption again. That was very unusual. Wow, that is just too weird. I've never seen anything like that. And why only during post? Guess need to be prepared for some weirdness with such an old video card and such a new system. Oh, it looks like Windows might be booting. Maybe that hard drive just needed a kick in the ass. Come on, you could do it. It's certainly trying. Aha, I think we're getting somewhere. The system log is full. I'm sure that's the least of our concerns right now. Ooh, I don't have a mouse. What's going on? It's definitely connected. Do I at least have a keyboard? Oh, at least I have that. And the application log is full. Sure, I don't care. Yeah, we've got problems. And why do we have a panda head? I guess that's the mouse cursor, which still doesn't move. Let's clear that error. Yeah, still have no mouse. Sure taking its time preparing those network connections. It's probably waiting for DHCP to time out. And it's been about 5 minutes now. It's still allegedly preparing network connections. Hard drive is blinking every once in a while. Nothing's making any terrible sounds. We're so close. Aha! Just as I was about to give up. We've graduated to applying computer settings. Hey! Got a login screen. Control-Alt-Delete. Still have no mouse. And I guess we have a domain, which means I'm going to have to crack that password. See if it happens to be blank. That's a no. See what we have in the domains list, if anything. Oops. Yeah. Guess that's the only one. Okay, I need to get into Canopics, but I also need to do a clean shutdown, and apparently we don't have that option. That is grayed out. Let's see, what do we have in options? Oh, that's even less options. Come back. What if we hit cancel? And back to this. Guess we're not achieving clean shutdown that way. Let's see if it'll take ACPI commands. Oh, sure does. There we go. Clean shutdown is very important, especially for older NTFS file systems, or what I assume is NTFS. Could be FAT32. And you know, I probably should have put the Canopics disk in there while it was on. Made it. I still can't get over that corruption. Yet it seems to post normally. Come on, boot from CD. So I have no idea how to get into the BIOS settings. Ah, nope. I gotta go through this all over again. That CD drive did spin up, so I bet it does work. Okay, well, the Mac Store couldn't give us one more clean shutdown, and I gave it twice as much time. This is way more than just DHCP timing out. And we have a very ominous blink pattern. Oh well, let's force it down. Now I gotta try every possible keyboard combination to get into the BIOS, since I obviously can't read that. One of these has got to be something. Aha! And hey, we can read it. Although, interesting that it's grayscale. Okay, there should be BIOS features set up. There we go. Make that the CD. I'll make the floppy the second boot device, since it's there. And the hard drive the last resort. There we go. Let's save that. And now that CD drive is sounding like it can't do it. Oh, wait. There it goes. Come on. Let's get in there. Well, something tells me we're not getting a graphical environment. Let's see if I can at least get into a console. Aha, sure can. We don't need no GUI. Let's see if we found that hard drive. Sure did. Looks like it's SDA5. Let's see if it worked out what file system that is. It is NTFS. Let's mount that. Yeah, no complaints about unclean shutdown. I guess modern Linux is smart enough to not care. Let's get in there. And we got some files. Looks like tons of music. I think we found out why they have 2 CD burners. Was this a piracy operation? Let's see how much space is free on that drive. Okay, plenty of free space. I was thinking those logs have filled up the drive. Okay, back to the task at hand. Let's clear that password. Let's figure out what variant of capitalization the Windows directory is. Really? None of them? See, Linux treats files and directories as case sensitive, even if the file system itself is not case sensitive. Maybe Windows isn't on that partition. I'm hitting tab to try to trigger the autocomplete. What was that other partition? I don't remember. Yeah, there's an SDA1 with NTFS. Let's mount that. Duh. Oh. Not STA. There's the Windows directory. Let's get out that SAM hive. See if System32 is capitalized. Probably is. Somewhere? Come on, not this again. It's really gonna make me work for it. Ooh, that's weird. That's telling me file system corruption, which we kind of already knew. Just didn't think it would be that bad. I wonder if this drive can survive any basic read operations. I'm thinking about cloning it, because for some reason I really want to see what's on there. More than usual. Can we at least read you? Okay, that's going at a pretty good clip for an IDE hard drive. This should fail on the first error, if there is any. Okay, we're past the first gig, so maybe it's possible to clone this drive. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and unmount everything. Now let's go find a suitable clone recipient. Meanwhile, let's shut this down, which makes those umount commands redundant, but oh well. Thank you. Okay, I got that hard drive connected up to the bench PC. Let's make sure it's happy about that. Sounds like it. Let's see if we see it. And we do, as SDAC. So let's just take an image of that. And now we wait. Well, we made it about 18 gigabytes in and died on an I/O error. Not really surprising, but it is annoying. I really want to pull something off this drive. So let's instead use DD Rescue. Basically does the same thing, except it doesn't stop on errors. We're going to do direct disk access. We'll give it about 3 retries. That'll make it read the sector up to 3 times before it gives up. Point it to our device. I'll just use that same image name. And I guess we'll write out a log file. Now we wait some more. Well, it appears that DD Rescue did indeedy rescue us. We had a couple of read errors, but looks like the do-overs got it. Now I need something to write that image to, so let's try this 160 gig Western Digital Caviar. No idea if it works, but we're about to find out. Let's see if we get a spin up. It's very quiet, but sounds like it happily initialized. Let's just make sure it was detected. And I guess it's SDC? Though it's odd that it didn't figure out the capacity. Maybe that drive isn't all there. Let's see what kernel output has to say. SCSI scan inquiry result too short. That is weird. Guess I'll try writing that image anyway. Okay. Something's not right with that drive. Either that or the USB adapter really doesn't like it. Well, let's see if we have any better luck with an 80 gigabyte Seagate Barracuda. That sounds happy. Let's see if we detected that one. Yeah, there it is. Alright, let's try this again. And we are writing. Okay, looks like that was successful. Let's make sure we have partitions. Yep. Okay, let's go ahead and mount it. Let's make a mount point for it. C5. Well, it would help if I could spell. Looks like it mounted. Yep, looks good. Although I just remembered, that's not the C drive. I gotta mount SDC1. There's Windows. Let's go ahead and reset that password while we're in here. Edit user data and password. Looks like we just have an administrator account. Let's clear that password. Looks like it's already unlocked. So we are done. Let's get out of here. Write that out, and that's it. Let's just cleanly unmount everything. Okay, let's see if we can finally get into this thing. Okay, let's try this again. Now, for some reason that reminds me of the Martian glyphs from Commander Keen. Alright, looks like we're booting the clone. And we still have no mouse. I don't know what's up with that. See if we get a mouse when we actually get into the OS. If we get into the OS. You know, I should have just connected a dummy network. Let's clear that. Sure. Is this thing trying to get on a domain? I know I cleared that password. Let's see. The old period / will do it. Huh. Well, that's annoying. Definitely cleared that password. The oldest version of Windows Server that I'm familiar with is 2003. But I can't imagine this is much different. We still only have one domain in that domain list. And yeah, that password's definitely blank. That means there's likely a policy that prevents login with blank passwords. So how am I going to get in this thing? Not sure if I can inject a password hash into the SAM hive. Let's see, was there any other accounts? I'm pretty sure we only had the guest account. Yeah, 01F5. I wonder if I can go ahead and unlock that. Though that's probably also disabled in GPO. And let's try to promote it to administrator, why not? Well, you know what, on second thought, let's just see if it works as a guest account first. Let's get out of here, and out of there. Write out those changes. Alright, let's see. Nope. Oh man, I really wanted to see the actual OS. It seems like we're probably going to have to use an exploit to get into this one. Well, let's get back on the bench PC and see what we can find. Okay, here's that large partition. And as you can see, they definitely enjoyed their music. And I'm sure all of it came from totally legit sources. Let's see, what's in that 32-bit folder? Guessing this is some kind of program. These are icons for it. See, it has an access database there. And I guess it's written in BASIC? Interesting. Speaking of BASIC, I was sure I saw a QBasic folder there. Yeah, there it is. So somebody was still running QBasic in the early 2000s. At least that's what I think these files are from. Let's see. Let's get some details. Oh, late 2000s. Boy, these timestamps run the gambit. From 1986 to 2008. Wonder if this person just really liked to code QBasic. Well, that's cool. Now let's get this back in icon view. Alright, let's see. I saw a program files directory. Where did that go? Oh, it's right here. Okay, well, nothing incriminating here. Let's go to the actual C drive and check that program files directory. Aha! Kazaa! I bet that's where all that music came from. It's in the shared folder. It's empty. How about the other? My unshared folder. Let's see, there's also a Kazaa Gold I saw. No shared folder in there. I guess he must have kept it clean. Actually, let's see if we can figure out when that was installed. 2009? That seems a little late in the game for Kazaa. I seem to remember it running on 2 cylinders by that time. Let's see, what else do we have on here? Oh no, Citrix. Wonder when that was installed. Looks like 2004. I'm still having a hard time gathering whether this was personal use, business use, or both. No Adware 5.0. Using that in combination with Kazaa must have been a fun battle. Registry cure. Can anything really cure the Windows registry? Still wish I can get into the OS, but at least we got some semblance of what this thing was being used for. Let's Some kind of home server / piracy machine. Yeah, I gotta take a peek in that download folder. Aha! More evidence that they were robbing the poor innocent RIAA. They certainly like downloading executables. That registry cure definitely had its hands full. Looks like they may have been doing some kind of sysadmin stuff. Got some networking tools down here. Yeah, if I had to guess, I'd say they were using this as a small business server or something. Very interesting choice of case for that, though. I guess who doesn't like a fun-loving server? I see we have what looks like checks in that junk folder. Rest assured, this drive will be wiped, as well as the drive I copied the image onto. I don't like keeping that stuff around. Okay, let's check the disk drives, starting with the floppy drive. Sounds like it's doing it. And yep, we are booting. And both CD drives got drivers. Now we already know that the top drive works, but how about this one? That thing said no. I am not opening. Sounds like it didn't even try. Oh, there it goes. What was that all about? A little stubborn, I see. Sounds like it spun right up. See, it's probably S drive. And yep, works just fine. Guess Yamaha made some good ones. And you know what? Let's actually boot up into Canopix 3.8. I want to see if that mouse no worky issue is a hardware issue or a software issue. Even though I'm 90% sure it's a software issue. Let's get that floppy disk out of there. And yep, no hardware issue. Just another quirk with that Winstall, I guess. Well, that answers that question. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for. The peel. Aw, yeah. That's the stuff. And look at that pristine plastic underneath. And of course, it is now vulnerable to scratches, but that shouldn't be a problem. This machine's sordid past is over. I don't know, I kinda love it. As far as weird iMac mimics go, this one's actually pretty well done. And who would have ever guessed we'd find a server hiding inside? A server that had clearly been sailing the high seas. And I'm still really surprised that it bucked the capacitor plague, especially with the brand of caps it has. This thing was just meant to survive, though with the exception of old Mac's Tor. But that goes without saying. Let's move on to the next system, which is this wonderfully wacky thing. This case has some very odd features. For starters, that is one gigantic power button. There's no mistaking that. Hopefully we get a cool LED light show behind this translucent plastic. And it's surrounded by the classic mid-2000s fake chrome, and a fake chrome reset button. We also have what looks like a removable drive blank here, and I'm struggling to imagine how it's going to look like with that removed. We will certainly find out. And we supposedly have a Pentium 4. We shall see. And here we have a super generic looking CD burner. Although I've been doing this for so long, I can say with almost absolute certainty that drive is probably made by Light On. That is a face I've seen before. I'll be very, very surprised if it's not. And here we are at the back. I see they opted to go with the open concept I/O plate, and looks like there's not much else to this system. Somebody may have picked it clean. It also feels suspiciously light, but at least it has just about everything one would want on board, including a NIC. So this is probably a later P4 board. Well, let's get it open and find out. Ah, they got the hard drive. Oh well, at least they left the CPU and RAM. Let's go ahead and clear out these cables. And that is a tiny little motherboard to be in this big old case. Also, I'm pretty sure this power supply is full of lies. There's no way that's 300 watts. I bet it's as light as a feather. Now let's see what kind of horrible heatsink clips they have for us this time. These should be the push down and kick out type, and they are. Actually, these are some of my more preferred Pentium 4 heatsink clips. So easy. Oftentimes the chip will be stuck to the heatsink, so gotta be careful. Feels like this one's good, and it is. Well, figuratively speaking. That thermal paste is quite dry. Let's clean that off. And yep, it's a Pentium 4 alright. Let's pull it out of there. Ooh, with a warranty sticker on it. That's my least favorite place for those. Let's try to pick that off. Well, at least that was easy. And also completely pointless. But at least all those pins look good. Ooh, that's upside down. And hey, it's a Pentium 4 from the legible era. Clocked at 3 GHz, with a whole megabyte of cache, and 800 MHz frontside bus. SL7PM. Yeah, this is a later one. Let's get it back in there. Let's see what we have on the RAM side. Got a 512 meg stick of PC3200 DDR1 with more warranty stickers. This must have been some kind of builder, or at least someone who thought they were important enough to have warranty stickers. Let's check out the next one. Looks identical. And it is. Identical in every way. So we got a full gig of RAM. They were doing the mid-2000s right. And here's a good look at that motherboard. It's an Intel D865 GVHZ. This motherboard was probably harvested from a gateway. We'll have to see if it still has a branded BIOS. But one thing that is remarkable, no plaguey caps at all. They all appear to be high quality. What are the chances of that? 2 systems in a row. And this motherboard also has SATA, so it's one of those in-between worlds boards. It's always nice to have SATA, IDE, and floppy on the same board. And somebody whacked that Northbridge heatsink. Let's straighten that out. That's better. And I'm sure that battery's dead. Let's see. Yep, quite dead. As per usual. And this heatsink actually seems remarkably clean for once. Let's see what's lurking under that fan. No, it's incredibly clean. Just needs a very light brushing. Don't even need the paper towel for this one. Yeah, it didn't take much. Now, let's go ahead and pull this motherboard out of here. I want to try to replace the thermal compound on this Northbridge if I can, if it's not too much of a chore. And this is interesting. This case has a couple of A-holes down here. So this thing is configurable to support an AT motherboard. You know, I don't see that very often. You will, of course, need a different I/O plate, but at least it's possible. Okay, what in the name of sweet merciful crap is going on here? That freaking heatsink is soldered on. It is permanently attached. Well, not permanently, obviously it could be desoldered, but who wants to go through all that? Yeah, there's those 4 legs. Why? Why? Well, I guess we're not changing that thermal paste. Well, at least we're not forced to neglect the CPU. Okay, let's get this drive cage out of here, since it's removable. Good catch. Oh, that thing has a screw on the other side. Let's see if I can contortionate this. There we go. Man, somebody defaced this drive to devastating effect. This thing is slam full of dust. It's gonna be a miracle if this one works. Okay, now I've got to know, how silly does this thing look without this drive bay cover? Oh, you know, it's actually not that bad. I was expecting this portion to be much uglier. But no, it looks good. I'm actually pretty lucky to have this drive blank because it's quite an odd one. Not standard at all. Now let's get that CD drive out of there. And just as I thought, the CD drive is made by Light-On. I didn't think it would be quite that fuzzy though. Hopefully it's not fuzzy inside. Manufactured November 2002. Now let's see what kind of horrors await us in that floppy drive. And it looks like all the crap is in the most unreachable spots. Let's see how much I can pull out with a Q-tip. It's getting fuzzy. Oh, it's terrible. At least the dust begets the dust. I'm kind of curious how this one got rolled into such a perfect ball. Well, until I smashed it. Must have just been rolling around in there from the airflow. Well, it's better, but I'm not too worried about it. I've got a lot of floppy drives, and they all have their original faces. There really was no need to deface this one. These cases normally work just fine with a full-face floppy drive. We'll give it a fighting chance anyway. Though somehow the head stayed remarkably clean. Now onto the power supply of lies. Actually, it doesn't feel too bad. It does seem to have a pretty beefy transformer in there, so maybe it's better than I think. Though I'm kind of confused about that recycling logo surrounding the Earth, or what I presume is an Earth. Could be some other planet. Is this power supply made of recycled materials? And seems to have been manufactured September 2001. And oddly enough, it has a single AT-style P6 connector. It's like the type of thing you only find on those weird proprietary Dell power supplies. Not exactly sure what this would be used for. Well, let's see if it works. Will the sacrificial hard drive sing? Let's see. And that's a definite no. That thing is very unhappy. No smokes or bangs though. How disappointing. Let's try one more time. Yeah, ain't doing it. Let's just try disconnecting everything, except the tester. Yeah, it doesn't want to live. So it's either junk or very non-standard. Oh well. I'll just have to use the Corsair with the ridiculously long power cables. No problem at all. Now let's see if that power supply unalived the motherboard. Let's give it some bootability. That's probably the end of that floppy disk. Sending power. And it turns right on. And it does post. And complains. Alright. Everything's as expected. Guess it really wants me to run setup. Let's do that. There's no hard drive, so I don't care about the timestamps. So I'm just going to leave that alone. It probably just wants acknowledgement. And we are booting. Can't believe that dusty old floppy drive came to life. And the CD drive is detected. Let's see if it does its thing. Opens quite eagerly. And just a little bit dusty. Doesn't sound like it's doing much. Let's see. Oh no, works just fine. Alright. Oh, it's one of those terrifying sounding high-speed drives. Well, let's see if it boots up the Canopics. Let's get that disk out of there. Oh! Well, that came out quite violently. I guess without the drive door, that thing gained some velocity. Alright, let's reboot this thing. And Canopix wants to boot. Let's go. And that is quite the resolution there. Didn't think that graphics card was capable of this. Let's get some info on this thing. Let's give it the old LSPCI. And I guess I need to embiggen that. That thing is Intel through and through. That's as Intel as it gets. Let's get that CPU info. Oh no, I'm vulnerable to meltdown in Spectra. Doesn't have any of the cool bugs though. Now this GPU should support some 3D acceleration. Let's see if it does. And sure does. Yeah, we got stable frame rates. It's a real graphics powerhouse. Yeah, that's a joke. Okay, not much else to test on this thing. Let's shut it down. Oops. Nowie. Oh, it's shutting down anyway. Huh.
Initiating shutdown sequence.
Hey, sound card works. Thank you. You know, I'm kind of miffed I didn't get to see the LEDs come on. I guess whatever front panel header configuration this thing had was not accurate. So I'll just turn them on with a bench power supply. Hey, there's the power LED. Green means go. Let's see if I can get the hard drive LED to come on. There it is. And there's the complete color scheme. This thing looks cool, I don't care who you are. I don't know, it just has a certain ridiculousness that I find appealing, with its inexplicable bulbousness and unnecessary iridescent purple. And I love that it's configurable for AT or ATX, though adapting that power switch to an AT power supply would be fun. Probably have to use a switching circuit or something. And that motherboard's not too bad. I do wish it had better GPU options. PCI is all we get, but that thing is Intel to the core. And I finally figured out what this case's color scheme reminds me of. It reminds me of the Aptiva, with its subtle purpleness. So we have one case mimicking Apple and one case mimicking IBM. Everyone wanted to be one of those two. But I'll tell you what I want, to give my appreciation to all the fine patrons and channel supporters. They're the ones keeping this channel from bankrupting me, and these old systems aren't cheap. But that's all for this video. Thanks for watching.